And there's a little bit of a delay, so they may be seeing us, and we don't know that we're on yet. So, guys, if you're already on, welcome. If you're looking for talking to a communication expert, media trainer, you're in the right place. We got a great guest today. So if you're already logged in, let us know where you're signing in from. Go ahead and put in the comments now where you're signing in from, and also let us know that you can see us both and hear us. Okay, we want to make sure that the sound is working correctly. So if you could, let us know where you're signing in from. And the first couple of folks who comment, let us know that you can hear us and see us. I'm going to double check the comments here. I'm also going to make sure I pull the link. And for those who confirmed, I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the event page there. So let me just do that now. So once again, if you are just signing in, go ahead and hit that like button. In fact, you can get applause. Let applause. This is going to be a great show today, where we're going to be talking about how you can handle it better when you're being interviewed, perhaps when you're interviewing someone else, whenever you're called in to be in front of the media. We've got the great expert here to talk with us today and share her experiences, as well as some experiences she's had in adjusting to COVID. So let me just quickly pull up that link to make sure that we are online. It looks like we are. That's wonderful. Okay, excellent. Looking good. All right, I'm happy. And I want to make sure we get you tagged in too, Lisa. 1 second here. Perfect. I'm going to make it real big where I can see all the comments. I'm looking for lots of comments today. Here we go. Go ahead and hit that like button. There we go. Sorry. Hi. So, hi, Barry. Barry's already signing in from Alabama. We've got Gregory from New Jersey. We've got Gregory Ciccio. And we have Joe. She said she can see us and hear us. Oh, I'm so happy. Awesome. Okay, this is going to be a great day, I can tell already. I see Casey's already liked us too, so appreciate you too, Casey. All right, so listen, welcome to the show, Lisa. Glad to have you on today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Rollis.
Awesome. Well, you've got quite a history here. I know you've been in PR. You've worked a lot with the media there. You're doing a lot of coaching right now for media training, and you're a communication expert. So I thought, man, what better person to have on today than yourself to talk about some of these concepts, because we're in different times today. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we definitely want to get your thoughts on what we can do whenever we're called upon to be interviewed by the media. Perhaps also there may be a situation where we're interviewing someone else, and maybe we're a hiring manager, maybe we are doing a podcast or some type of show, and we want to know how to interview others. So I'd love to hear concepts about that. And those of you out in the comments there, let us know what questions that you have. We want to hear about what questions you have. We want to hear your feedback. We want to make this very interactive. Of course, we'll be giving away a couple of books today as well. And so as we get this started, I'd like to start off with you, Lisa, and tell us from your perspective, what are the top 2 or 3 things that a person can do to prepare for being interviewed potentially by someone in the media, or if we're interviewing someone else? You can hit either one of those points.
Well, let's do it. They're 2 different things, really.
Sure.
If being interviewed by the media, the first thing you'd want to do is learn about that person who's interviewing you. Like I learned about your background before I said yes to this interview. You want to understand who they are, who they serve, that type of thing. So understand the media outlet, the interviewer. That's important. Also, you want to think about key messages that you want to communicate, very important, and the typical questions and the challenging questions you might be asked. And it's good to make a list of those, develop bullet point responses to them, and then practice delivering those responses. And some of your typical questions might be, tell us about your career journey, or tell us about your company. Some of the challenging questions might be, how has your revenue taken a dive? Your response might be, we're a privately held company. We don't reveal our finances, but what I can tell you is, and then you pivot to something else. But you want to practice answering those questions and thinking about how you will respond to the challenging questions, and even those that are private, that are too private and you can't share, but you want to practice delivering those responses. So that will help you get started.
Oh, I like that. So just let's unpack that. So let's say we know we're going to be interviewed. And as we're preparing, what's one of the top 1 or 2 common mistakes that you see people make when preparing for a media interview?
I would say lack of preparation for one.
Makes
And
sense.
also not practicing with the camera. Like right now, I'm looking right at the webcam. It's counterintuitive because really I want to be looking at Rellis's face.
Right.
Well, but if I do, my eyes are down here and then I don't look as connected with you, the audience. And when you're looking into that camera, the reason you want to practice that is because it is so unnatural to be looking at a camera lens. But if you think about you speaking to an individual, that's going to help you have a more natural delivery.
I
So
love that.
practice both ways.
Yeah, that's a great point. We were talking about that just preparing for this interview today. Is I'm going through that whole process now because I've moved from sitting to standing, and I've moved my camera up, and so I can't just look at my computer anymore. I have to actually look at the camera above. So that's a great point. So would you suggest perhaps recording it, perhaps and looking and reviewing it that way, or just keep practicing into the camera?
I would practice looking into the camera and record it and watch it later. Don't
Okay.
practice in front of a mirror. That's a big mistake because then you get this immediate feedback loop. And it's going to change how you deliver. It's going to make you more self conscious. And you're not going to have the natural delivery that you would if you were just looking right at the camera.
Oh, I like that. That's good. Okay. What are the top two or three things you've seen when you've watched interviews? People who probably weren't your clients, but you've watched that they made certain mistakes or just common mistakes when being interviewed by the media.
There are a few things. One is putting down your own competitors or people in your industry or your industry in general. Sometimes people do that in an effort to say, they're all bad, we're better over here. That can really backfire in a lot of ways. So avoid making blanket statements in general about groups of people. That is going to really help you.
All
That's
right.
one mistake. Not preparing for sure is another. I would say interrupting the host. Allow the host to interrupt you because usually they're doing that when they feel the show is going too far astray, the conversation, or they might think that a point needs to be clarified to keep the audience with them. So
Right.
allow the host to interrupt you, but don't interrupt the host. Those are a couple of small things, but important things.
Oh, those are great. One of the things I've tried to do with my show too is, as best I can, I try not to interrupt their thoughts, especially if I know they're not on media a lot, because I know it can it kind of throw off their train of thought. But at the same time, I like your point to to expect to be interrupted because in most cases you will be interrupted.
Right. Especially the tricky thing is if you're doing a radio interview where you can't see the person because on camera or in person, you can pick up on some nonverbal cues of when somebody wants to speak. You can see them lean forward or their mouth starts to open.
Yes.
On radio, you have to really listen. And you have to listen even for things like a sigh or a breath that might indicate somebody's trying to speak.
Ah, good. I like that. Okay, very good. Let me look at some of the comments and see what feedback we've had so far and make sure that I don't miss anything here. I haven't hit refresh with these comments. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Okay, so we've got, let's see, Gregory says coming in from New Jersey. Okay, I think I read that. Then we have Philippia is coming in from Houston. Hi, Philippia. We have Joanne from the Philippines, actually. And Patty, good to see you again, Patty. She's from Hazel Green, Alabama. We have Robert from McKinney. We've got Leah from Montgomery, Texas. And Philippia says stacking books under your laptop to make it eye level helps. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For your setup, you want a few things. And I have a different setup usually, but I have a little ring light next to me. Fortunately, Rollis was able to correct the lighting a bit, but in my normal setup, I have the lighting all set. And yes, you want your camera, the webcam itself to be at eye level. Like right now, because I did this in a hurry, I put a wooden jewelry box under my computer. Where I sit, usually I have one of those Desks so I can raise it and lower it. But that is really important. You don't want to be looking down. It changes things a lot, and it also changes how you feel. You'll feel more confident when you can sit upright and be looking right at the camera.
I love it. Yeah. And I just, whenever you first started talking just now, even I forgot for a second and I was looking down at your face on my camera on the computer versus looking at the camera. So it's so easy to forget. That's why practice is so important. like what you said earlier. Now there are a few folks out there that'll say, you know what, it's just not for me. I don't think I can do media. I don't think I can do interviews. But at some point, they're going to be called on to do an interview, probably even if it's to get another job, if it's to interview with a client. It may not necessarily be the media. What are some things that you would suggest as far as confidence building exercise or thoughts to help encourage those who are hesitant?
A few things. One is the person who shows up for that interview is the culmination of everything you're doing in your everyday life. So look at your daily habits. What are you reading? Are you meditating? Not that you have to do any of these, but think about it. What are you filling your mind with? Are you practicing affirmations if that works for you? Visualization. Those are things that can help. The other thing is, I think what is beneath the fear of public speaking for most people, or for many people, is a fear of being judged. And that can
Yes.
come from society, right? Or the way we were brought up. No parents intend to put that on us, but that fear of being judged is there for most people. And so I think we need to spend time undoing some of that. And one of my favorite quotes was from Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "What others think of me is none of my business." And
Ooh, yes. I like that.
if you think about her life at the time, here she was doing all this great work for people in our country and around the world. And people were criticizing her for her looks and all these other stupid things. And I believe what she meant with that comment is you go out and do your best. And beyond that, you have no control over through which the filters people see you. You just can't worry about it. So go do your best and don't be focused on what they're thinking of you. Be focused on your mission and your message and putting your best foot forward. And after that, you can't control it.
Oh, I love that. This is good stuff.
Thing.
I
Your
appreciate
mindset
it.
is important. And then also, I teach my clients a little preparation ritual to do before they rehearse and then before they have an interview. Just like athletes and actors and singers warm up, you should too. Breathing is important, some stretching, mindset, because you want to shift from all the other stuff you've been doing. And also, I feel like we all carry around like this bubble of thoughts and responsibilities that are just
Right.
there. You want to, for the period of your interview, be solely focused on what you're doing and fully present in the moment. So a little prep ritual will help with that.
I
Those are
like that.
really help.
Yeah, I like that about being present in the moment because I find that if I have too many distractions as we're doing the interview, and if I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
away too often,
Right.
a lot is lost in the interview. I'm not able to fully focus on what they're saying. It's hard for me to have follow up questions. I feel myself just being a little more disconnected, and the audience can feel that.
Right. And you'll feel it, and you'll be much more alert, better able to answer questions when you're fully present in the moment. You don't want your mind drifting off. Sometimes I put a time limit on it, and that really helps. Like I might say, for the next 90 minutes, nothing matters but this. I'm fully committed to this. And
Yes.
that time limit helps me to go, okay, after that, I can get back to everything else. It's just a
Yes.
little mental trick, but it's very effective.
I love it. I love it. Okay, let me look back at the comments just to make sure we don't have any other comments that are coming in as we go along. And we're going to give away a book too. I think it's a good time to give away a book. Let me ask you a question, Lisa. If there was a book that you were going to reread that you've read before that you thought was really great, what book would that be that you would want to reread?
Wow. Uh, Probably almost anything by Wayne Dyer. The power of intention was incredible. I'd say a lot of Wayne Dyer. I also loved Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain. I think I've given probably 20 copies of that book to people
Oh
over time.
wow,
Yeah.
those
Powerful.
sound good. Okay, so let's do that. Well, let's give away one of those two books, either the Wayne Dyer book or the other one. Maybe you can put in. Later, I'll have you put in the comments, or maybe Joe, can you look up that book? What was the second one you said?
Creative Visualization by
Okay.
Shakti. That's Shakti Gawain.
Okay.
Gawain.
Okay. So yeah, Joe, if you could look that book up, and that we can add that to our list for today. And then the other one was Wayne Dyer, The Power of Intention. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're going to add those two. So we're gonna give away one of those two books. If you happen to have read both those books, which I doubt you probably read both of them, but let's say you have, we do have a list of other books that you can also claim. All right, so here's the book. Here's what we're going to do today. What I'd like to do is we're going to do kind of the name thing we did yesterday. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this word it's a word with 5 letters in it. And when I say go, I want you to type each of those letters separately in separate comments. And the word for today is going to be the word media. So go ahead and type that in now, MEDIA. And the first one to do that uninterrupted will win a copy of the book. Just make sure that you type them all in separate comments. M, separate comment, EDIA, and so forth. And so we'll see who wins that. If anyone interrupts you, then you got to start over. Okay. Now, as they're doing that, I have something new I want to try with you. Okay, so this is Never Have I Ever. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna read something here, and you can tell us if it's true. Never have I ever, or you have. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And so before you tell me for sure, the audience is gonna have to guess.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna have to guess if what you're saying is the case. Okay. Let's see here. You know what? No, I'm gonna change it up. What I'm gonna do is I want you to answer it truthfully, and I'm gonna have the audience. They're gonna come back and say if it was true for them, if they have or they've never. Okay.
Fun.
All right. Never have I ever. I lost the one I had. Here we go. Never have I ever been caught sneaking in or out of my house.
I don't think I ever got caught. No.
I love it. That's funny. You said, I know the key word is caught. That's funny. I love it. Okay. See, I know we're going to get along great, Lisa. Okay. So folks in the comments, let us know what you think. Okay. Let me hit a refresh here. By the way, Philippia said great quote when you quoted Roosevelt. Roosevelt. That was great.
She had a lot of great quotes.
And she said, I agree with Lisa. Always cringe when I hear someone bash their competitors. So she agrees with you on that. Yeah. You know, I think most people agree they don't like hearing it, but we tend to do it. People tend to want to do it. I mean, it's like I don't know. I've seen it happen so often. That's the only way I can explain. Like, why is it done so often if most people don't want to hear it?
I think a couple things. I think people come from a place of insecurity sometimes.
Yeah.
And so they're looking to set themselves apart. Or sometimes they really have a secret disdain for their own industry, which isn't great. You know? And so that can be tricky.
Yes.
But now everything you say publicly, and I don't just mean on TV, just publicly, everything can be captured and shared through social media. So be very careful about what you say.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point.
And you look stronger, actually, when you're not putting people down. When you're just focused on what you do, what you can do. And maybe you could say, in our industry, this problem has existed. What we do differently or what we're doing. There's a gentle way to say it if you need to do that.
Yes. And by you naming it and saying this is what we do, they can the person who's watching it can mentally differentiate you from those other competitors who aren't doing that or doing things differently.
Right.
That's good. Okay. So let's see. So who won the book here? Let me see here. And Joe has already put in the book picks for today. I'm just hitting the refresh button here because I'm missing some comments. So forgive me if somehow I miss your comment or your question. Feel free and put in again. I apologize, but my comments are not refreshing like they normally would. Okay, so Philippia says, had some close calls but never got caught. She said the same thing. Okay, so looks like Rahat was the one. Rahat was the one who won the book. So I got to give him some applause. And before I do that, I'm gonna make sure I bring you into this. 1 second here. This is kind of fun. That way we don't miss you when I do the applause. We're gonna give Rahat some applause here. Congratulations, Rahat, and you get the applause as well. All right. He was after it. Okay.
That's
Very good. All right. So I have another question for you here. Who has the greatest singing voice of all time?
Is this a question for me?
Yes.
Ooh, all the time. I'm just the first person who popped into my head is Barbara Streisand, but could be a lot of people.
Ah,
But she's pretty incredible.
beautiful. Yeah, she has a beautiful voice. Some of those songs, Memories, and uh,
Yeah.
so many hits she had. Wonderful. What do you guys in the comments? What do you guys think? What's your favorite singing voice of all time? Okay, let's get back to our discussion again. Now, when we're talking about interviewing someone else, what are some things that maybe you, as you're watching and you're interviewing clients or training with clients to train them up for a certain interviewer,
Mhm.
and you're saying to do research on them, what are some things you've observed more often than not that we should look out for when we're researching some of these potential people that could be interviewing us, whether it's a hiring manager or it's a media personality or whoever it is? What are some steps you go through when you're researching?
Okay, if you're going to be interviewed,
Yes.
so definitely check out somebody's LinkedIn profile, look at their social media, see what they're about. You'll get a sense of them. Like this, I watched some of Rollis's shows just to see his personality because we've been communicating through LinkedIn first. And you want to get a sense of that. You want to know, is it a friendly interviewer? Is it somebody who asks very insightful questions, very incisive questions? Are they going to be combative? You want to know what their perspective is. And sometimes, too, by learning more about their background, that's going to help you. Sometimes the person interviewing you has a technical background in something that's very relevant. Like I know a lot of the people here are in the healthcare industry. There are people who cover that beat that were healthcare administrators or hospital administrators. That's going to give you a different level of interview and different level of questions. So learning about them is important. And if it's a writer, read their articles, see what they write about, look at the tone. That's going to help you a lot.
Yeah, I like those. Those are great points. Okay, now you got me curious. Now, so what? So since you watched some of my shows before, like, what did you ascertain? What's my interview style? I don't even know what that is. What is it?
I would say friendly and informative are the two
Okay.
things that come up, which is great. And also, you add a little bit of an entertainment aspect to it that keeps things rolling. Some
Yes.
people who do professional interviews are very serious, and I'd say you're business-like, but they're trying so hard to be business-like that they're very serious, and that can sometimes come across as flat, where your show has more energy.
Okay, I like that. We like that's what we want. We want to keep the energy going. That's awesome. I love that. Okay, let me hit the refresh button here and make sure I didn't lose any more of these comments coming in. And as we do that, as I hit refresh here, I have another question for you.
Mhm.
Would you rather be a bullfighter for one performance or a circus lion tamer for one performance if you had to choose?
Is this for me? Definitely
Yes.
lion tamer. Either are bad to me. I wouldn't want to treat animals like that at all. So,
Ah,
yeah,
see, so we learned something from you about this with this. That's why I love these questions. So now I
right.
learned that you're an animal lover.
Yeah.
Um, have you always been that way? What is it? What is it especially that draws you to animals? You feel?
Well, I don't even have pets, frankly, because I'm busy. I'm allergic to cats, even though I love cats. I like dogs too, but we just don't have enough time to give them the attention they need and all of that. But I don't particularly love zoos unless they are the kind that have really natural habitats and a lot of room for the animals to move. I think putting them in cages is cruel. Bullfighting, I think, is very cruel. So I think, I don't know if it's, yeah, I just feel like that's not a way to treat any being, human, animal, at all. Nobody should be treated that way.
Well, see, that tells me a lot about you too. You've got a big heart. You care. You care not only for people but also for animals. So that's you care for life, whether it's human or animal life.
Yes,
I
true.
love that. That's good. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, going back into the media conversation again.
Mhm.
What are some things that you've observed of those who've been interviewed that do extremely well that we may recognize in the media? Like who have you seen that they just give a great interview every time, or every time you've seen them, or one in particular that caught your attention?
Gosh, I mean, there's so many people. I would say, in terms of business, some of the people who've been around for ages give great interviews. Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett. Oh, the guy who is the CEO of, is it Gilead, the drug maker, was phenomenal. I can't remember his name right now. Phenomenal. He
Okay.
was able to talk about what they were doing, how they were developing the vaccine, how they were going to distribute it, but he brought some heart to it. So I think what people look for in interviewees or speakers is what I call the winning formula. It's a combination of confidence, authority, and warmth. They want to feel
Okay. I
like
like that.
warmth comes first, actually. People want to know
Okay.
that you care about people,
So
you like
warmth
them.
first.
And then confidence in yourself. I mean,
Uh-huh.
not these aren't in any other order. An authority over your topic. They want to know, like, can I trust you? Do you know what you're talking about? Very
Yes.
important.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay. Now, any tips for that you want to give for if someone is giving an interview?
Mhm.
Like if you were training a client up to be interviewed by whether it's a media personality or whatever the
Mhm.
case is, what would you like for that interviewer to do? What's some things you would like for that person to do or not do when they're interviewing your client or someone who you're watching?
Uh, I mean, I don't look at it from that perspective. If I'm training somebody to interview others, I have some tips.
Okay.
With the media, expect anything and be prepared for anything.
Okay, got it. Well, okay, well taken. Okay, so
Yeah.
how would you okay, then in that case then how would you reframe it if you were going to train someone to be the interviewer like myself? What are some do's
Okay.
and don'ts for me?
I would say one of the biggest things if you're interviewing other people is learn about the person you're interviewing for sure. Create some questions in advance. Be open to asking questions on the fly. You have to be a very good listener to be a good interviewer. Very good. Because just as you've seen Rollis as a perfect example of picking up on something and then continuing the conversation or asking subsequent questions, that's what you want to do as a good interviewer. The other thing he did prior to us being live on the call, we had a little chat. It was very friendly. He puts people at ease. That's important. Not every interviewer does it, but if you're going to interview people, you want the best interview possible, unless you're doing one of his antagonistic interviews. And I doubt that's the case for most people here. So put people at ease. One way to do that, if you're on a Zoom call, let's say you're starting a Zoom interview, whether it's for a media platform or a job interview, smile. I look at it like you're coming to my house and I'm opening the door and saying, come on in. I'm going to smile and greet you warmly. So do that. Let
Oh,
people know what's going to happen in the interview if you can, if you have time ahead of time. Usually you would have set that up. But if it's a live interview, if it's for a job, you can just tell them, we're going to just chat for a bit. I want to learn more about what you are looking for, what you bring to the table. You can phrase it, or frame it any way you want, but that can help put people at ease too.
I love that. These are great tips. Okay, let me make sure and look at the comments one more time to make sure that I'm not missing any particular comments. And guys, if you have questions, we've got the right person to talk to if it has to do with media interviewing or being interviewed. Philippia says Rollis is like the daytime Johnny Carson for LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
great.
Wow. Okay, they're gonna maybe turn red over here. Um, and so Rahat's real happy about his gift. Okay, well thanks. Keep those comments coming, guys. And I have another question for you here. If you had to choose, would you rather have an extra leg or an extra arm?
I think an extra arm.
Okay, why is that?
I think I just do more things with arms than legs.
Okay. What's that one thing an extra arm would help you with that you can think about? Can you think of anything in particular?
Probably when I'm cooking.
Ah, that's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yes. Helping to cook. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I was just thinking now if I had really good control over my arms, I would have one arm for the trackpad and then the other two arms for the keyboard so I can type and I can also still move the trackpad with my hand.
It's an important thing to think about.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to give away another book. And this time we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a trivia question this time. And what we're going to do is we're going to have you answer the trivia question first, Lisa. And
Oh,
then
okay.
then we're going to see if the group agrees with you or not. Okay, so here's the question. Which Canadian singer left the TV series Degrassi The Next Generation because he felt there was room for improvement in his singing career?
I have no idea.
Just take a
I
stab at it. Take a stab at it.
think, was it Drake?
That
Was
sounds like
that
a
him?
really good guess. That sounds like a really good guess. So guys, what do you think? Do you think that Lisa's right? Do you think that it was Drake who is the Canadian singer who left the TV series Degrassi The Next Generation because he felt there was room for improvement in his singing career? Go ahead and put in the comments who you feel it is. If you feel it's Drake, if you think it's Drake, you can put either Drake or Lisa. I'm with Lisa. Or you can put another singer that you think it may be. And the first person who answers correctly will win a copy of one of the books we mentioned earlier, which would be The Power of Intention and
Visualization.
Creative Visualization. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're gonna see what they came up with. That's a very good guess, by the way, Lisa.
We'll
I have
see.
I have confidence in you here.
I didn't watch that show, to be honest. I think it was aimed at people a little younger than me.
Okay. Okay, so never have I ever eaten the inside of an Oreo and then put it back in the box.
Oof, never. No.
See, I know something else about you. You like to keep things clean when it comes to your food, right?
Absolutely.
Now, with your other group of people, do you share food or do you just keep yours separate?
Sorry, what was that?
When you're with a group of people, do you share food or do you keep yours separate?
Oh, like when I'm dining out?
Yeah,
Remember that? Remember dining out?
I know, a long
Uh,
time ago.
Sometimes we'd buy. I mean, we'd share dishes that we all chose. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
fine with it.
so you don't mind eating out of the same dish or whatever?
Well, no, I would only do that with my husband,
Okay,
actually.
that's how I am too. I only,
Then, yeah, no, I would only share food with my husband at this point.
I'm
Yeah.
the same way. No, I get it. Okay, let's see if anybody agrees with you on the trivia question here, and then we'll get back to our serious media interview here. Okay, let's see. All right, so Robert says Drake, so he
Oh,
apparently agrees with you. Let's see who won. Let's see if that's correct. I'm clicking on it now. Yes, the
oh,
answer is Drake. Very good.
good, good.
And congratulations to Robert as well. We're going to give him a little applause there. Congratulations, Robert. Awesome. Okay. All right. Going back to this, a lot of us, when we are in the moment, let's say it's, I don't know, we could be pulled aside just in the moment for an interview by a media a person, a news, probably a news person. I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe it's like here in Houston, we have hurricanes. We've got flooding, and someone pulls us aside and wants to get our thoughts on it, or something just happened in the moment. We didn't have any chance to prepare for this interview. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what are some things you would suggest that we should do to prepare now mentally for when that does happen in the future. How should we handle that situation?
Okay, if you're just pulled in, you mean as an expert, or just off the street, like you're walking by,
Like,
they
like an
just want.
off the street kind of thing. Just you're pulled away. They wanted to get your opinion on some stuff. You're not a subject matter expert or anything like that.
Oh, I see. Okay, something like that. People underestimate the power of pausing. It's perfectly fine to take just a beat to think. Your brain works extremely quickly. So if somebody asks you a question, you can just think for a moment and then respond rather than what most people do and go, they usually use a filler. Well, that's just buying time to think by using those fillers. Pausing can really help you. Pause, take a breath, relax your diaphragm, and then answer. And your brain will probably fill in an answer for you. And if you don't have an opinion, sometimes that's okay too. You could say something like, wow, I'm just taking this all in right now. You know, you don't have to always have an answer,
Right.
especially something like that, so random.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So let's go back to, if let's say you are the subject matter expert and you've been invited to be on this panel or to be interviewed at, maybe it's at a conference.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you would do differently in that case than, let's say, a news related type show or a show like this? There are different settings. Does that change any of the concepts or principles in how you're training your clients to be ready for that interview?
Absolutely. A panel is very different, or speaking at a conference. For one thing, if you're a speaker and you're up front delivering, you have much more control because you're the one speaking. But if you're being interviewed on a panel, a few things to think about at conferences or when you're on a panel. Most of the time, the audience has been sitting there for hours. They're getting bored. And it's
Yeah.
not because the content's boring necessarily, but they've been listening to the same kind of tone and cadence for hours.
Yes.
So if you can add some humor, that's great. Or drop an inspirational line, some motivating sentence, something that gets people livened up. The other thing is, and you can do that, you can even joke with the other panel members. It really brings it to life. And the
Yes.
audience almost needs that, right? They need that sense of relief from laughing sometimes after sitting for so long. The
That's a
other
good.
thing that, I'm sorry,
No,
yes.
no, that's a great point. Yeah, thank you.
The other thing that I think is important that you can do as a panelist that will help you too is
Mhm.
pivot the conversation when necessary. So let's say the conversation somebody else has been called on, and you might want to say, "Can I add on a point here, or can I add on to Steve's point and add something else?" Or you might be asked a question, you can answer it and then say something like, "And the other thing that we find that's very important is." So you can shift the conversation a little bit, and it'll bring much more to it,
Oh,
to the whole.
those are some key points. I like that. I would write that down if I was taking notes. Can I add something to that? Is great. And then the other thing you mentioned, what was that? Can I add something to that? And what was the other thing you just said?
Thing is, and this isn't true in any interview, if you're asked a question and really the question isn't quite getting where you want to go, you could start to answer it and then say something like, what we find, a few things. You could say the question that comes before that is, or what we look at before that, or what we find to be a bigger issue is. And then you can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yes, I like that. No, that's good because you're still honoring the question you're being answered, but then you also have an opportunity to interject whatever point you wanted to get to if it's not getting to the point you want it to get to. Yeah,
Right?
I like that. Okay, so I have a question for you. What is the best, and guys in the comments, I want you to answer the same thing. What is the best advice you've ever received? You personally.
You know, it was from my brother when I was probably in junior high, maybe younger, and I was mad at my sister for something she did. And he said, "You know, Lisa, grudges only weigh you down." That has stuck
Yes,
with me forever.
that is so
And
true.
then just through life, you know, as you lose people you love, you realize how you never know when the last time is. It can be your last conversation with someone. So I try to never, ever leave anything bad between me and anyone.
Yes,
No grudges, no negative. And it helps your life feel lighter.
yes, I agree. Guys in the comments, what's been the best advice you've ever received? I'd love to hear what you think about this as well. What's been the best advice that you have ever received? Lisa, I also want to ask you this.
Mhm.
Looking at your life, and you've learned so many things over the past several years. What what would you tell your 15-year-old self if you had the 15-year-old Lisa in front of you? What advice would you give her?
Stay true to yourself, always. You know, there are, and for the most part, I really have. I have been self employed a lot of my life, and I've turned down clients if I felt like I couldn't serve them well. Either it was something outside my scope, or more commonly, it just wasn't something I wanted to amplify in the world. There are people that you think like, that's not really a message I want spreading. I don't want to be a part of making that bigger.
Oh, yes.
And every time I turned down one of those, I'm not kidding, like within a few days, something much better came to me.
Oh, I like that. How did you feel too? Like after you did put it down, how does that feel?
Well, I always try to do it with respect and gently. It felt great. It's very, again, very freeing. That you want to carry as little baggage as possible. It's the same with lying. Who wants to keep track of lies? Just
Right.
be as honest as you can. And when you have to let somebody down, do it in a way that's respectful. So with those people, I literally said, I don't feel I'm the right fit. I don't see the vision, and usually I do. And sometimes I referred them to other people that were happy to take them on. Or sometimes I didn't. I just said, I just am not the right fit. Like, you need somebody who really can help you from your perspective, and wish just do it gently. But it felt really good,
Yeah.
because I can feel in my gut when something doesn't feel right. Like, oof, like literally, that gut feeling, you've got to listen to it. Your second brain,
Yes.
you feel it. I felt it very physically when certain opportunities came to me. Like, no.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean.
Mhm.
Um, it's interesting as far as how I came upon your profile was you
Mhm.
were answering a question. I think it had to do with diversity, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
because you had a client you worked with, and you had a very nice answer you gave. And just by reading that, I was like, you know what? This is someone who I think I would like to possibly have on the show. When I looked at your profile, I read the post first, then I looked at your profile. I was like, first of all, she may be able to connect me with that person or others that are like that, but I would like to also have her on my show as well. So that's kind of how we kind of got connected. Because I
That's
don't
very
just ask anybody to come on my show. I like to kind of get a chance to know who they are first, then reach out to them, or they've been referred to me by someone that I know well. That's typically how I get guests on the show.
that post that you're talking about. I did for that, and it there were like over 300 interactions there, comments. It was a lot. Numerous people commented and private messaged me and said that really meant a lot. To me, I feel like even though LinkedIn is a professional platform, we still are people with hearts. You should
Yes.
never be afraid to show your heart and your soul just because it's a professional platform, because emotional intelligence is one of the best and most important qualities in a leader and in human
Yes.
beings. And so when you show that, you attract wonderful people like Rollis. There were some other amazing people that connected with me just because of that.
That's awesome. I love that. Love to hear that story. Okay, let me refresh this and see if I got any other advice that you guys have received that you want to share with us on the show here. And by the way, if you have any questions for Lisa, please feel free and pipe that in as well. Okay, so Noelle says great examples. She's taking notes, so she's appreciating this. Noelle's
Great.
a really good friend of the show, a good friend of mine. And then let's see. Also, we have one here. So Noelle says, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness." That's true.
I love that. I love that statement. I've heard Robert Herjavec say that on Shark Tank. And I think that's a very important thing for people to think about
Yeah, absolutely.
for
Okay.
themselves, usually for themselves, because a lot of people are afraid to show heart because they're afraid they'll be perceived as weak. It's not
Yeah,
strength.
absolutely. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do another would you rather question. Would you rather? This is interesting because since you're an animal, since you love animals. Here's one for you. Have to spend every night for a month sleeping in a kennel, or spend every night for a month in a large bird aviary. Which one would you take?
The kennel. I think the dogs would sleep and be snuggly, and the birds would be noisy. I think I like birds, but I'm definitely more of a dog person than a bird
Okay.
person.
Okay. No, no. Well, we'll take it, guys. In the comments, what do you think? Do you think you would rather, if you had to spend every night for a month sleeping in a kennel, or every night for a month in a large bird aviary? It doesn't say what kind of bird it is. It just says large bird aviary. So I guess it could be any kind of bird. So I know people are going to ask, well, what kind of birds? Well, whatever kind of bird you want it to be.
Well, if you're talking birds, that's a whole different thing. My father-in-law loved birds, and he had some that would speak, and they would do it in his Maine accent, which was pretty funny.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Now, okay, so was the accent pretty good?
Oh yeah, smarten up. One of his favorites. Instead of smarten up. Yeah, he did funny. He liked birds, and I like birds. My husband, I still, I mean, he's passed away. He's been gone for a while, but yeah, such a Mainer. Really
Oh
funny.
wow! See, that's so cool. I like the way these bring up certain memories and things. As we go through some of these questions. That's why I enjoy doing it. Okay, what is your favorite beach? Favorite beach you've ever been on?
Mine,
You
I'm
didn't know I was
kind
going
of.
to ask these questions, so you're like, hey, wait a second.
It's a tie between Wailea, Hawaii, and probably Positano, but this one specific beach in Positano, Italy, that I went to as a child.
Oh, okay, this sounds good. Okay, so Positano Beach, and what was the other one you said?
Yeah, Positano, Italy, and Wailea in Hawaii.
Oh
That's
yeah,
on.
Violet. Yes, yes.
That beach
Because
is amazing.
I love beaches. I love that kind of feel, and so I want to eventually visit more and more beaches. And so I've been getting recommendations from my guests. That's why I like to sometimes throw that in.
Oh,
So Positano Beach, like that.
yeah.
Okay. So guys, what's your favorite beach? Maybe you can put that in the comments as well. Okay, now as we scroll down here, let's see if we have any questions for you. Um, Noel says, "Oh, Philippia says best advice: assume positive intent when dealing with tough conversations."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
that is a really good point because a lot of times when members of the media are asking challenging questions, people sometimes misinterpret it and think, wow, why is this person being so tough on me? Usually they're not. Usually they're asking the questions that they believe are in the minds of their audience. And so if they don't ask those questions, then they'll be beaten up later, like, oh, why'd you go so softly on that person? And so
Yes.
that's what they're looking at. Sometimes people, my clients, when I was in PR, would say, I thought you sent them the press kit. They were asking me all these questions that were answered in the press kit. I said, they have to ask those. And that's why we prepared you for them, because those are the questions people want answers to. So they have, especially if it's a live interview on TV or something, they need to ask those questions. And same with the tough ones.
You know what? I like this point you just made because when we're talking about sales or a presentation idea or whatever it is, and I was interviewing with Bob Berg the other day. He wrote The Go Giver and then that series, him and John David Mann. And one of the things he was talking about was you want to think about what it is that the other person wants first.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that will help you know how to frame the rest of the conversation. So going to your point you're mentioning here is that yes, it's true you already put it in the press kit, but from the media person's perspective, they have to get certain questions out whether you put it in the press kit or not, because that's what their viewers want from them.
Right. I love the point you just made. And it's really how, when I'm working with clients, we always start with what's in it for them. That is true. It's what you should focus on with any audience ever. When you're being interviewed for a job, what's in it for them? What can you contribute? When you're interviewed by the media, what can you help them do? The interviewer needs to create a great show or write a great article, right? So what's in it for them? You can give great tips, you can give great information, whatever that is. It's always about what's in it for them. And every time, if you start thinking that way, you are going to develop your content and respond in a much more effective way and much more positively for you.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, it reminds me of Zig Ziglar. He had this saying that everybody is always tuned into the same FM station, radio station. It's WIIFM, and that's what's in it for me.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, let's see what the comments say here. I want to make sure I don't miss. Again, I'm having to refresh these comments, guys. So sorry. It is just not refresh. Normally the comments will just keep rolling, but for some reason they're just not doing that. Okay. Okay, good. Looks like I'm caught up. All right. So as we kind of come down we're coming down the final stretch here. I wanted to make sure I get out certain points that you think are important for us to consider when it comes to being interviewed, by the media or interviewed for any purpose. what are some
Mhm.
key, maybe top 2 or 3 suggestions you want to leave us with of what we should want to have in mind to prepare for that?
I really think it's outlining the questions, making a list of the questions you think you'll be asked, preparing responses to them, practice saying them out loud. Also, look at try to get rid of fillers in your language as much as possible. Like, these are common fillers, or beginning every response with so or well. The reason is if you overuse fillers, sometimes that's what takes focus. People
Yes.
notice that more, or they might think you're lying, you don't know what you're talking about. Those are not good, right?
Right.
Or that you're nervous, and you don't want any of those three things. So practice pausing more often in your daily life, in every conversation with your spouse, your loved ones, your friends. Get used to communicating at your highest level. That is going to help you to show up being the best communicator you can be.
Oh, I love that. Um,
But
tell me if if this resonates with you or if you agree with this. But because people's attention span is so short, you may have an interview like our interview is going to be close to an hour, right? Or some interviews may 20, 30 minutes. But they're only going to show probably just a small portion of that particular interview. So how important is it to avoid another filler thing I think that happens and they say a lot is like I said before or again.
right.
Um, if it's going to be put into a clip, it's hard to do that because that part of what you said before may not be in that clip. So I don't know if you want to talk about that, or maybe taking out some of those extra filler words that may not help the interviewer or the editor out.
That is a big important thing. So you just made a great point. Don't refer back to something because you don't know, just like Rolla said, are they going to chop up that interview and use different pieces? So that's one thing. The other one is if you're in a taped interview where they allow you to stop and start again if you mess up, stop, get to a good, pleasant resting face, and then begin again. The worst thing to do is say, I'm going along and then I stumble and I go, oh, let me start over again, and then just go right into it. It makes it really hard for the editor.
Ah, yes, that is golden, Lisa. I
A big
love
one.
that.
Be easy to edit. I tell you, these little things are what makes members of the media call you back. When you're easy to work with, they will call you back. And then if you're in an interview that is taped, they might ask you to incorporate the question into the answer so that your segments can sit on their own. So they might say, what are the top 3 things you can, or what can people do to avoid heart disease? And you might say, the top 3 things people can do to avoid heart disease are, and then you go into it.
I like that. Okay,
So
that one does this. That was great. No, and
thanks.
it's one that I have because we do a lot of recruitment videos for clients to help them attract more folks to their organization. And so when we're interviewing the hiring managers or the employees, we try and remind them of that. You know, when you're answering a question, don't just answer the question. Try and incorporate it into your answer, so that makes it easier to edit. That is golden stuff right there. I love that.
Good.
Okay, any tip or two we want to leave with those who are interviewing? So whether you can put it in whatever format you want, a framework you want, whether it's a media interview or just interview in general. The interviewer, what are the 2 or 3 things that they should keep in mind?
Well, like the one thing is, you want to put people at ease. You set the tone. And also do your research, but also if you are hosting a show, for example, let's say you're hosting a podcast, have some content ready that you can incorporate. Don't just make it a Q&A. Like in this interview, you can see Rollis had a lot of his own content to add and his own ideas. Because the connection, if you're the interviewer and it's your show or your podcast, the connection is between the audience and you. Your guests are going to come and go, but you want to maintain that relationship. So, like I was just preparing a client really for her own podcast, how to shape it. What she did is she would do her research first. She would start the podcast by establishing the problem, quoting some research and data. Then she would introduce the guest, and then she had different points she wanted to put in throughout the interview, and it made it such a richer discussion. So those are
Mm.
do. And if you're interviewing somebody for a job, I mean, I want to tell people how to do their jobs, but really asking what people's weaknesses are in this day and age. When I hear people say that, I look around and go, is it still the 70s? Terrible question. It's a
Yeah.
terrible question. So really think about the questions you're asking people. And if you're interviewing for somebody for a job, I would ask them point blank, if they haven't covered it already, what do you think you can contribute here? Because a lot of people, especially young in their careers, think about what they're going to get out of it. I want an environment where I can learn and grow. I'm like, great, you're also going to get paid. What are you going to contribute? you know? So that is important on both sides.
Yes, I like that. Boy, this has all been key points. You've been an amazing guest today, Lisa.
Ooh,
I just want to thank you for your time, and I can just tell it just comes across that you want to give and serve and help others, and I appreciate that about you. So thank you for sharing today.
thank you. Well, it's been my pleasure, Rollis. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. I love your audience too.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so much. And what I want you to do too, Lisa, is let us know what's the best way for our viewers who watch this, whether the replay or live, what's the best way for them to connect with you? How would you like them to reach out to you?
Yeah, any way they want. My website has ways to connect with me, expertmediatraining.com.
Okay.
But if they want to connect by email, it's Lisa at expertmediatraining.com. That's pretty easy.
Excellent. Okay, so Joe, can you put that in the comments for us? So we'll have that. Our viewers will have that, and of course, also I've tagged you in here, Lisa. So I don't know if you're accepting connection requests, but I've
Oh,
got you tagged in here as well.
thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Well, once again, we appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the great work. Thanks for all the great tips today. I know that we're going to get some good clips out of this, and I'll be posting it back on my profile a little bit later. But thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Rollis. It has just been a pleasure. I'm very grateful.
Me too. I'm grateful as well. All right, so thanks. I'm going to bring in. We got Lisa, not Lisa. We have Leah coming in next. She's going to talk about our upcoming conference. But thanks again, Lisa, and we'll be saying adieu. Everybody, say bye to Lisa.
Bye.
And Lisa, what I'd like to do too is keep looking at the comments because they may have other questions for you if they're watching the replay. And I do have you tagged, so there might be some other opportunities and questions that come up, and I'll try and tag you as I see them come along. Thank you so much. All right, have a good day. Okay, guys, we're going to bring in Leah now. Let me bring her on the screen. Now, this is my first time doing a switch between guests in the same show, so bear with me, folks. We're going to see how fast we can do this. Can you hear me okay, Leah? Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Okay, great. There we go. We got you on.
Hi.
Awesome.
Is
So
it blurry?
it looks a little bit blurry, but that's okay. We're going to work with it. Hey, it's live TV or live LinkedIn, so we're going to work with it, right? We're going
Okay.
to roll with it. Glad to have you on. What I want to do briefly is just talk about what we're working on together, which is a conference, and that's something that. I just lost you. There we go. Okay.
No,
Uh,
I'm here.
okay, I got a little scared there. I was like, oh no. Yes, we've been talking about the conference recently and some of our posts. I wanted to get some updates from you as to how are things shaking out with the conference, what the conference is all about that we've got coming up, and that way we can inform some of our viewers of some of the updates.
Okay. So I actually just got off of a Zoom call with the platform that we're going to do the virtual career, or not, I'm sorry, not the virtual career fair. I just got off the Zoom with the company that's going to do the virtual exhibit hall. And so what that means is that when you go to a regular conference in person, there's going to be sponsors there and they're going to be in a virtual booth, and it's set up kind of like a VR video game. And so you can go from booth to booth, and then you click on the booth if you want to enter. There will be information about that sponsor, about what their company does, why they're a sponsor, There may be a video about their company, and then there will be a chat link. And you can, for some of the sponsors, they're going to have people live and they'll chat with you. And then for others, you can just submit questions or request to do like a Q&A with them. You can request a Zoom meeting, whatever you want to find out. We'll have downloadable information. So there will be like PDFs that you can download about their organizations. And that will be available to anybody that attends the conference. So that's exciting. I know that this is just very different for everyone. One of the sponsors we were just talking to said that they did a virtual conference not too long ago that was really disappointing because they're so used to that interpersonal connection.
Yes.
And they missed that. They didn't get that at all. And they didn't even have the opportunity to create that with the platform that they use. So one of the things that's really neat about the platform we're using for the virtual booths is that there is the capability to have like a face-to-face, well, I guess computer to computer,
right.
if you will. So that's really neat. So about the actual event, so how it's going to work is once you register, you'll get a link to a private LinkedIn event, and we're going to host it on LinkedIn Live because that's probably the best way for us to broadcast it to everyone. Right. The speakers and the panelists will be coming in through Zoom, which is going to be a little different. And then you're going to cast it live, just like you're casting me live right now on LinkedIn. So we're testing that out right now, making sure everything's working. I don't foresee any technical difficulties, but we'll have backups if necessary.
But no pressure. So you're putting pressure on me when you say that, no technical difficulties.
Well, I mean, we've been testing it. We've been testing how it'll work. If the Zoom for some reason doesn't work into LinkedIn Live, we'll switch over, go to Wirecast. Or so we have a couple of backup contingency plans. But what I'm really excited about is the content of the conference.
Yeah, tell us about that. What is the conference? What's the main thrust of the conference? What is it supposed to accomplish? And what type of folks do we expect in the audience?
Okay, so just a little bit of background. We had 2 in-person conferences scheduled, one for Houston and one for Dallas. And those kept on getting pushed back. And we didn't want to keep on doing that. So we said, let's just go the way of the world right now and go virtual. And so we combined them together. And what we expect is we have some amazing HR leaders, some healthcare leaders from around the nation that will be discussing current topics and issues. And when we went through the programs that we had scheduled for Dallas and for the Houston event, some of those things just aren't relevant anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So we updated everything. We really want to talk about the relevant issues going on. I know everybody's really tired of hearing about COVID and the pandemic, but we're in an industry that it is incredibly, it has impacted every piece of the healthcare industry, and it probably will for a long time. So being healthcare HR practitioners, we need to have plans, and we need to figure out how this is going to work, how the entirety of our organization is going to move forward during the rest of the pandemic, after the pandemic. We're going to talk a lot about wellness, employee wellness, provider, like clinical wellness has been talked about for a long time for doctors, right. The burnout. But what we're seeing is it's not just your frontline employees anymore who are burned out. We're seeing like a lot more anxiety and depression and issues with people being unwell, basically because of our current situation. A lot of people are working from home. A lot of people have lost jobs. So we're going to talk a lot about employee wellness and how you can even manage that in a virtual environment. We're going to talk about how much recruiting and talent acquisition and hiring and interviewing has changed, and what best practices we're seeing, what other organizations are doing. One of the other things we're talking about is a lot of hospitals compete, right? You're competing for your ratings, you're competing for your patients and whatnot. You want to be the best. But right now, a lot of people are saying, we don't have time to compete. We have to collaborate. We have
Yes,
to make sure that we
yes.
have a plan to serve the public and the public health needs. So that's going to be very exciting to talk about that. And then I would say, like, we don't have a keynote every day. What we've decided to do is put together a really high level panel. So each day there is a panel discussion with some of the top leaders in HR, in healthcare. So Wednesday and Friday, we'll have a panel of CHROs. And on Thursday, it's going to be CNOs, your chief nursing officers. And so, we're going to hear from top decision makers, people that have been on the front lines of this, how they've dealt with it, how they plan to move forward, and the feedback that they're getting from their employees.
Yeah. And really, the reason why, for those who are just watching and just hearing about this conference, the reason why we're having the HR as well as CNOs on there is because one of the biggest needs right now for hospitals is they're short staffed with nurses. And so we want to make sure that we not only bring in top HR leaders to talk about the issues of the overall workforce, but then also in particular have those CNOs who are prepared to talk about nurse staffing issues as well as other clinical support staff, which deals directly with patient care, which is a big part of why we're all in this. We want to make sure that we keep our hospital staff properly so that they can serve the patients in the most effective and safe manner.
Yeah, I think that you're completely right. And I had somebody ask me yesterday, Rollis, is this just for talent acquisition? And I told them, no, this is about all HR. We're not going to cover benefits and total rewards and stuff, but we're going to. It's an all-encompassing HR conference, and I think that there will be pieces of the conference that will be valuable to totally different departments within HR, totally different disciplines. I will make sure that the detailed agenda gets up online by the end of the week so that you can kind of see, you can plan. If you've got a meeting on Thursday morning, that's fine. Still come on the Wednesday and the Friday. And you can kind of plan your days around who you want to hear from, what panels you want to tune into. I think that it's just really exciting to see how many people are coming together to provide all this great information and content for HR practitioners.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on today. And I want to quickly read a couple of things for Lisa, our last guest. Noelle says, 100%, I recognize or like a lot with self and especially others when I'm interviewing so much so that I can count. And she says, great advice, Lisa. And Philippia says, yes, Noelle, are the worst. It distracts me from what the person's saying. So that's so true. Joe put in your web address as well as your email, Lisa. And they're saying goodbye. Great show. They're loving it. So I just wanted to make sure. I read off some of those comments about our interview with Lisa. But thank you for coming on today, Leah, to help us. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited about this conference. Discover, Connect, and Learn. Right?
Yes. Discover, Connect, and Learn.
HR Max 2020. Looking forward to that. Well, guys, thanks for watching today. Thanks for being a part of our network, our audience. We just love having all you guys on. So keep putting the comments, even if you're watching a replay, even if you're not watching it live, go ahead and still comment. We're going to be looking at these questions later. If you like what you saw today, go ahead and give us that applause, if you don't mind. A little bit of applause. In fact, let me do it on the screen. A little bit of applause would not hurt. I gotta do another one. The audience has been great today, so thank you for all of your. So thank you, Leah. And since Lisa's here, I'm going to just say bye to Lisa and bring her on the screen. But I'm going to say bye to you right now, Leah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Go ahead and switch us back.
All righty. So, Lisa, I'm so thankful. Wow, you stayed. Thank you very much. And I appreciate you being on today. You've been awesome. And you probably heard some of the comments I was just making about you. The audience loved you. So appreciate it. Thank you so much for what you do.